What instantly kills the vibe at a party? Story 1. I was at a staff party with an open bar, and it reached the time when the first cluster of guests were leaving. When they went to get their coats from the closet, they discovered a young new team member who we thought had left hours ago. He had stripped off all of his clothes, made a nest of jackets, soiled everything, and passed out. Killed the vibe for sure. How the heck are you not instantly fired that second after soiling an entire room of strangers' coats? Bro, I would fire myself. No joke. Wow, he really made himself at home at that party. Maybe next time he should just stick to taking home a party favor instead of making one himself. Story 2. A friend of mine announced she had to fart to the entire kitchen while she was intoxicated. She proceeded to crap liquid diarrhea on herself. It hit the floor. It smelled terrible. The party ended before it really ever began. I guess she had some stomach bug or IBS or something. She ended up getting diapers for any gift-giving occasion after. No clue where she ended up. We lost touch a year or so later. Imagine your butt leaks in front of people and they never forget, so they keep gifting you diapers as a present. I would change my name and move to the Himalayas where nobody would ever find me. LMFAO. If someone gifted me diapers after I accidentally crapped myself, I'd stop talking to anyone involved, too. The event itself is humiliating enough. This girl gives the term party foul a whole new meaning. Story 3. One time, my brother, 14 at the time, wanted to see how hard it would be to dig out a 1 meter by 1 meter square hole out of the ground, Minecraft inspired. He spent a good amount of time over a weekend digging, until he got bored. It was mostly finished. Fast forward a couple of months, I throw a party at my dad's house, and we're having a blast. A bonfire out back and everything. A kind-hearted attendee noticed the pit in the ground and made it his duty to guard the pit, for he did not want anyone to get hurt. Someone got hurt. Spoiler alert, it was him. He fell into the pit. Our brave guard. Thankfully, we had a sober person there and they drove him to the hospital, but that instantly killed the vibe at the party. The end result? He broke his leg pretty bad, crippled by his own hubris, hoisted by his own pit guard. Having a drunk man guard the pit for other drunk people probably wasn't the smartest decision, but you have to admire his altruism. Story 4. In college, when we wanted to wrap up the party at 2 or 3 a.m., we'd play Dark Side of the Moon. It drops the energy. No one is being asked to leave. People are chill as they head out. No crazy disruptions for the neighbors. It's not specifically the vibe killing that the rest of the posters are sharing, but similar. The ultimate vibe chiller. Yeah, I'd just let the couch fuse with my body and then ride it straight into space if someone put that on. Story 5. Using the party for multi-level marketing sales opportunities. I was invited to a dinner party and only found out when I got there that it was a pitch for Amway. When I arrived, I was told there would be a short presentation prior to dinner. I said, "No thank you," and left. I went to a bridal shower at which the mother of the bride used it to pitch some jewelry MLM scheme she was in. It horrified me that anyone would be so tacky at her own daughter's shower. Honestly, that's the whole business model. MLMs exist to try and convert social capital into actual capital by basically betraying your friends, selling an overpriced and mediocre product to them. Otherwise, they're just an overpriced mediocre product that no one actually wants to buy. I'll sit through almost anything if it means I get free food afterwards, but surprise MLM presentations definitely make for one of the worst party vibes in existence. Story 6. When someone turns off the music and starts playing an acoustic guitar. Hey now, I've been playing guitar for decades and all I can say is you're absolutely right. I never play at a party unless I am specifically asked to and all present are in on it. It's just goofy posturing otherwise. Also, pro tip, if you do end up being that guy playing at a party, you better make damn sure you pick the right song to play. For reference, the right song is I Want It That Way by the Backstreet Boys. This actually awakened a long-lost memory in my mind. Many years ago, I was at a small party consisting mostly of coworkers. The music was low and there was a ton of friendly chatter. Very nice vibe. Then one of the guests decided he was going to bring in his portable amp and electric guitar to lay down some sweet riffs. Many people tried to politely dissuade him, but there was no stopping him. After about 5 minutes of a speed metal solo, the place quickly started to clear out. That single event was the talk of the office on the next workday. As I think of it right now, I can't stop laughing. Story 7. The person who talks about other parties that are going on at the same time. This one might be more of a college thing. You've got a good thing going on, but that person is scrolling through their phone and saying, "The party looks lit over at Alpha Beta Douchebag. Should we go?" And then proceeds to recruit people to follow them to the next party. Like, dude, if you want to go to that party, just go. No need to try and inflict your fear of missing out on everyone else. Some of us are perfectly content at this party we're already at. Is that really a thing? As a non-American, I always thought that's something only seen in movies. Around here, parties are usually a lot more private, and you don't just show up at a random one uninvited and with new people. Even the most extroverted people had max 2 to 3 uninvited guests, sharing it on social media during that happens when out clubbing but not at a private party. In large public universities in the US, it happens pretty much every weekend. It usually comes about due to a Venn diagram of friend groups. You are hanging out with your buddy Kyle, and you are both invited to party A. Kyle knows Stan at party B, and Kyle wants to go hang out with Stan at party B because of whatever reason. Once at party B, Stan gets a text from some girl named Marissa at party C, and he thinks he has a shot with her if he gets over there now. So you, Kyle, and Stan go to party C. These are all generally house parties. A house could be Greek, fraternity, or sorority, or it could be an athletic house, all the lacrosse players live there, or it could be just a house filled with roommates who like to host parties. As long as the ratios stay close to 1-to-1, everyone is cool and the booze doesn't run out. Pretty much all are welcome to these sorts of parties. If you are completely unknown, you gotta either quickly befriend whoever is watching the door, or improve the ratio. Bring girls or be a girl usually, or bring more booze. I will also mention that it is likely the result of our drinking laws. The primary attendees of these sorts of large public house parties are underage 18 to 20 who are not able to get alcohol through other means without some difficulty. By the time you are able to get your own alcohol, 21 plus, you've likely gotten to the small private party, bar, or club style of drinking you'd see pretty much everywhere else. Story 8. That one girl who shows up late with a bottle of expensive alcohol, finishes it herself within an hour, then needs to be escorted home by someone because she's too drunk to even form a coherent sentence. That girl has some stuff going on in her life. Be compassionate. I've lost friends because I missed the signs as they spiraled down. Trust that you don't want to live with that regret. Very true. The person I'm remembering was when we were in grad school. She was one of those people who always tried to come across as perfect, so she never really opened up about things to friends. Story 9. My most vivid memory of a party abruptly ending. At a friend's house, there is a big house party going on. We are hanging out in the living room. MMA is still relatively new to the mainstream, so every guy thinks he's an MMA all-star all of a sudden. 2 guys, friends, start play wrestling in the center of the room. One guy gets the other in a choke and chokes the guy out to the point of entirely passing out. The guy has blue lips and is unresponsive. I'm a lifeguard at the time, so I start giving the guy rescue breathing, chest compressions, and he slowly starts to regain consciousness. He then loudly proceeds to crap and pee himself. The place just reeks. And that was the end of the party. People cleared out before the EMTs even got there. It was just me, the friend who owned the house, the guy who got choked out, and the guy who did the choking. Some idiot did this to me at a party. I was taking a shot and he snuck up behind me and put me in a chokehold, completely unprovoked. I passed out with alcohol stuck in my throat, got alcohol poisoning, and was vomiting unconscious for like 3 hours. No one called the cops or an ambulance or anything. These were friends since high school, but I've never talked to any of them since, and that's been 15 years ago. Drunk play fighting is already a poor judgment call, but choking someone to the point of unconsciousness while play fighting is insane to me. Good thing he stopped choking when the other guy stopped moving, or he might have killed him. Story 10. Ooh, I got this. Some drunk guy kept following me around at a party asking me about something that was none of his business. I kept politely telling him it was none of his business. I got up and kept walking away and he kept following me around asking me about it. Apparently yelling at the top of my lungs, "It's none of your effing business!" stops a party in its tracks. I mean, he finally got the hint, but it definitely ruins the vibe. Story 11. I don't know really. Just this one time I was at a party and this hefty woman stopped the music, told a remember when story of some sort, and forced everyone at the party to look at her dancing to Madonna's Material Girl. That song is 4 minutes long, but I swear it feels as long as my entire 20s. Why would she do that? Asserting dominance? I still wonder. I knew a girl like that. She wasn't well liked by the house, but for some reason she wanted to come dance in our common room one Friday night, while everyone else tried to avoid eye contact and conversation. Eventually, she just headed into private rooms. It ain't like she harmed anyone, but it was extremely awkward and her lasting legacy. Apparently she did the same thing at a frat party a few months later. Weird. Story 12. Forcing everyone to play a game, especially if the rules are really complicated. A drinking party is not the place to try and teach someone a tabletop RPG, especially if they don't normally play them, especially when they don't even teach you and say just follow along. I apparently participated in a full-on script-type RPG-based Star Trek TNG game once at a high school party. I have no idea what kind of BS it was, but it involved playing a character and having to ad-lib dialogue based on some kind of plot. I have no memory of the reference, but for years afterwards, whenever I ran into the host of that party, she would call back to some supposed inside joke that originated from the game. Anyway, what I really remember from that night is that the vibe was aggressively lame, and although it was good harmless fun, I spent the night wishing I could teleport away from whatever the heck was happening. So yes, complicated games are a party killer. Story 13. The sober person who wants to be judgmental and passive-aggressive to drunk people during a conversation. We're drunk and can barely formulate a coherent conversation, let alone care to hear about how you don't drink, and your subtle shots at trying to pass judgment. Stay your butt home. Okay, so this person is definitely annoying, and I know what you're talking about, but they're hardly the people that ruin parties. Parties are ruined by crazy jerks who do crazy things, not prudes. So it's not a party ruiner, but it does harsh the vibe, and it can be kind of infectious depending on what level of prude they are and just how drunk the party is. If it's during the first hour and not many people have pre-gamed, it's definitely not okay. If it's later in the night when people have tossed back a few, then the prude is only causing issues for himself. Story 14. Unpopular opinion of many, but Cards Against Humanity. All actual fun stops and the party is now slave to bad, gross bro humor. The party is basically over and all are slave to the dumb game. I feel like COH was fun at parties for about a year or two after it initially released, and even then only with the right people. I think regardless of the people's group, it's now well past its prime, especially since even with new sets of cards, the humor really can only shock you so many times before it all sounds the same. It's fun if you haven't played it in a while, and you're with a new group. It's just too repetitive, and the game concept itself gets stale once you've experienced it enough. Cards Against Humanity is still better than someone suggesting Monopoly. Nothing kills the energy of a party like a game that makes you do math and never ends. Story 15. Oh, I have a good one for this. A couple weeks ago, my girlfriend and I were visiting her cousin for a housewarming party. Her cousin just bought this house maybe 6 or so months ago, and she was finally having some friends over. Maybe 2 hours into the party, her mother shows up. Apparently, she had found out about the new event through Facebook, even though she wasn't invited, and just let herself in. We're all in our late 20s and early 30s, but apparently when someone's parents show up, we still get awkward. The whole party got quiet, and she walked about. All our topics had to quickly change from what we were talking about to something that would be appropriate for a boomer to hear. A shame, because sometimes they know how to party and dance and properly flirt with everyone. Story 16. I've thrown a few parties in my day. I usually go out of my way to make a playlist that will work for everyone and keep the party going with a little bit of everything. There is always that one guy that needs to hear his stuff and finds a way to connect to the stereo. It's usually a male, and it's usually country music, and it takes everyone 2 or 3 songs to realize, and then it's free-for-all on the stereo. Story 17. I had a guy keep joke flirting with his buddy, then followed it up with, "But I'm not gay. I'm not gay, guys." Literally every few minutes he would say something like, "Yeah, happy birthday, Josh. I'll give you your personal present to you in the bedroom later." "I'm not gay, I'm joking." After the 7th joke, people stopped pity laughing and just felt weird. Like, no one cares if you joke that way, and no one cares if you're gay. Just stop making everyone uncomfortable with your awkwardness. He was also super confrontational and defensive. He reminded me a lot of Andrew Tate. Someone would try to engage him in a conversation, and he would somehow make it an attack against him. Someone would ask, "Oh, so you came to the party with your brother? Cool, he's a good guy." And he would get defensive and say, "Yeah, thanks for pointing out that I came here with my brother and not a girl." His last words at the party were, when he was leaving, and he said, "Thanks for kinda inviting me since I know you like my brother more than me, and you all just wanted to come, and I was just added along." He brought the party down a lot, and like, yeah dude, no one wants to be around someone like this. Story 18. The tipping point. I've been to hundreds of parties. The tipping point is a specific point in the night where people are hitting the level of drunk where they're either too drunk, acting stupid, fighting, puking, or cops are about to show up. I've seen parties go from everyone laughing and getting drunk to fistfights and people jumping off roofs and being really freaking dumb. I had to talk 10 plus people out of climbing a water tower one night. Thankfully, I managed to do so. You sound friggin' awesome. How can you tell when the tipping point is about to happen? My friend always called the shots on when to leave. He would just give give me a nod and say, let's go. I had too many calls in the car rides home about fights, police, or various other stupid stuff going down to not trust him. People get crazy. One time I was at a party at this house, easily $1 million home. It was so nice and one of the most packed parties I had been to. Turns out right after we left, people were knocking over all the statues in the house and jumping off the roof into the pool. Some kid jumped off a balcony to be caught by the crowd and ate crap. When police got called, and since it was a gate, they checked every single person coming out. We dodged that bullet by about 10 minutes. Story 19. I've not been to many parties lately, but for me, the instant vibe kill is when someone starts talking about strong opinions very loudly. I'm not racist, but you might think they're good now, but in the 1940s they killed us and never said sorry. They come here and they took our jobs! Or random acts of kindness, like someone throwing up next to the toilet or pees into a sink with plates inside, or kicks a dog. Or, violence towards a person who isn't into listening to the music that they like and asks for a little bit less volume on gypsy pop, reggae, electro, hardstyle, whatever. I realized just now that I have seen some stuff. I agree with you on the loud opinions, especially when they're negative or come off as complaining. We came to this party to forget about the world, not hear everything you hate about it. Story 20. I have a story about killing more than just the immediate vibe. So back when we were parents of young kids, we hung out with a number of other couples and kids around the same age. There were probably 10 or 12 couples who hung out pretty often, going on camping trips, having birthdays at the park, having potlucks at people's houses. It was nice. One Halloween, one of the couples had a party at their house, and so everyone came with their kids, pre-K and elementary age mostly, dressed in costumes ready to have a good time. And it was a good time until the host went to light a fire and used some charcoal lighter fluid to kickstart the process. He squirted some on the fire and then waited a few moments, while he went around to find a lighter. In the meantime, a bunch of kids gathered around, excited to see the spectacle. They were crowded around a little too tight, in retrospect. Of course, the guy came back, sparked the lighter, ignited the flammable vapors from the lighter fluid floating in the air, creating a pretty large fireball, which contained 6 or so kids within its radius. 3 kids' costumes caught on fire, including my son, who was dressed as a squirrel. I turned to see him running off with a tail on fire. There was one kid whose hair caught on fire and another kid who had no eyebrows and what looked like a very bad sunburn on his face. There was a moment or two of great excitement while adults chased kids around, putting out the fires, and then, well, that party was definitely over. Of course, it cleared out in about 10 minutes. The weirdest thing, though, is that this killed the entire group. Like after that, everyone drifted apart. The couple who threw the party ended up separating soon after, and I really think that it was because the wife was so embarrassed and appalled at her husband's poor judgment in setting their friends' kids on fire. A few other couples continued to hang out, but the social center of gravity just dissipated. A different man and woman from 2 couples started having an affair. Soon 2 other couples broke up. By the time the new year rolled around, one of the couples had moved out of state. 3 couples were separated or divorced. 2 of the other couples were publicly feuding with each other, and my wife and I had decided that we were going to focus on our family for a while. I still think about that fateful moment when the guy blew up not just the party or that social group, but his own marriage. He couldn't have known all the consequences at the time, but it's always a good idea to ask everyone to back the heck up before you light a fire. Story 21. This depends on how big the party is and how packed it is, but what I immediately think of is someone getting so drunk that they are blind anger drunk, breaking stuff, yelling, trying to start fights, etc. So what happens is that half of the buzz people in that person's vicinity lose their buzz by getting on high alert of danger, so they sober up just to try and dissolve whatever situation is arising, or at least get away from the path of it. Even after the destructive person is sent home, the vibe can be dead for at least another hour, and most people who witnessed it want to leave. And once those people leave, it's a snowball effect of people at that party who didn't even see what happened heading out because it's a party that's emptying out. This is from my memory of college 15 years ago, so I may be wrong. Smaller party vibes can similarly be ruined by someone being a sloppy drunk, but usually in a small enough group it's laughed off and the party continues. But yeah, 100% a small party is over once drunk fighting, yelling, or breaking stuff happens. Usually people who start acting belligerent in a small party can be brought home because everyone knows each other. At large gatherings, it can be unknown who the instigator came with, so it's more likely for them to encounter another type of drunk that can be riled up into anger at the drop of a hat. Story 22. Someone, usually a wife, yelling at her husband randomly and basically degrading him during the entire party. My friend was just constantly up her husband's butt during a get-together this past weekend, and it made it so awkward for all of us. It didn't help that she was super loud about it. I understood on a certain level since he was acting like a child and a genuine idiot the whole time, but good lord, she didn't have to yell across the house to tell him everything he was doing was wrong. This immediately conjured up images of Michael and Jan's dinner from The Office. Story 23. Fun killers. There is an expression in my native language, but basically it's people that turn down anything and everyone having fun into their own lame existence. Lost a card game? She'll tell everyone the game is lame while everyone else is having a blast. Once is fine, but when it becomes a mood, it kills the vibe having just that person around. It creeps up until it instantly goes beyond intolerable. Native language word? Rabat-joie. Not used that often. Party pooper works. Story 24. When somebody starts going way in depth about something super personal and depressing and nobody knows what to say. So the person just keeps going on about this really sad stuff until eventually someone's like, well, or well damn, and then the subject changes, but the vibe very obviously feels like someone just took a massive dump in the middle of the room. I really hate when people use fun gatherings as therapy sessions and bring down the energy. I know they have stuff on their minds, but so does everyone, and the New Year's Eve party is not the place to share your darkest secrets. Story 25. When someone changes a song before the best part. I've done this and got my dumb butt excommunicated from a party, rightfully. Nothing worse than an impatient DJ. Even if the song is mediocre, it's certainly better to suffer through it as opposed to skipping each song played 20 seconds into it. Story 26. The guy no one invited but still came. Often it should be no issue. I like meeting new people, but if there's a reason someone wasn't invited, then it can get really uncomfortable. There was this one guy during high school who always showed up to our parties. He was 6 years older than us and would flex on us literal children with his drugs and crappy car. He was asked a few times to leave, and one time he even gotten beaten up by classmates, and he would still show up the next time. Everyone was denying that they invited him, but he somehow always knew where he had to show up. We're also assuming that he had something with a girl in our class and they were extremely flirty with each other, even though she was always denying that she invited him. After I entered university and moved away, I got told that he got brutally beaten up by someone's dad because he had something with his underage daughter. He left the town and no one had ever heard from him again. I was not surprised because he already took advantage of the mentally unstable girl in my class and probably did this many times before and after. Story 27. When people take over the TV to share YouTube videos. That's weirdly relatable. A cousin had her Sweet 16 and there was a laptop with music videos during the night being played, all dance music and video remixes. Then one of my uncles wanted to show us a funny lip sync video he saw. Most guests were there awkwardly watching it, then another video, and another one, as my uncle happily told others about the couple that did the videos and how he liked them. Oh no, I did this during my first week of college. Luckily, I immediately recognized how awkward it was and haven't done it since, but I still cringe about it. Story 28. 4 or 5 guys randomly walking in that may or may not know the host. I had a party once with a bunch of ravers and didn't know half of them. Then some neighbors asked if they could come in. They were a little sketchy, but we said okay, and the second they walked in the house, my roommate's Boston Terrier started growling and walked them all right back out. That dog knew something. Walk-ins aren't welcome at any party with my friends ever since some random guy came into our 4th floor apartment, got kicked out for being creepy, and then successfully climbed the side of the building onto the balcony. Story 29. Cops. Police showed up at a party I threw back when I was underage. I somehow managed to convince them not to send everyone home by telling them how much bacon and sausages I'd bought for breakfast the following morning that would go to waste. Looking back as an adult, I have no idea how that worked. Did they just pity me or something? Either way, my point is that it's sometimes possible to keep a party going even after the cops appear. Just keep your fridge stocked full of pork products. Story 30. The crying girl that needs everyone to console her. Get out of the bathroom, there's a line forming. I remember I was at a party once and this girl did that, but she thought she was too drunk, she wasn't, and was going to die, and got people to call an ambulance for her. We sat at a table drinking beers and rolling joints, Canada, and these paramedics and cops showed up and it was basically just an eye roll fest for everyone involved. Why go out to a party if you're just going to get dumb wasted and start crying? You can do that at home without embarrassing yourself. Story 31. The strangest I've seen was at a dorm party. This drunk girl goes to her room, gets her Bible, and tries to start preaching to all of us. When it didn't go over well, here came the tears. Luckily, some friendly types got her back to her room and tucked her in. I don't know if they did some Bible study briefly or what, but they got it handled. Story 32. When I was about 15, a mate of mine threw a party because his parents were out of town. There was a dude at this party who all but downed a bottle of Southern Comfort straight from the bottle. He started falling over everywhere, throwing darts everywhere but the dartboard, and then proceeded to throw up in the sink in the bathroom. He then got in the bath and slipped, bringing the railing down. He got out and went and passed out in the host's parents' bed. They all antiqued him and wrote the usual crap on his face. He got up in the morning, had to apologize, and then got picked up by his dad and had to explain it all to him. And that lad was me. Learn from my mistakes, kids. Put Coke or lemonade in your Southern Comfort. Or, hear me out, just say no to SoCo. Story 33. The couple that shows up with their kid. This first guy in our group had to settle down and have kids. We were happy for him really, but we wanted to keep the wild parties going for a while longer. And he turns up to the party all straight and narrow with his family, and we need to free up a room for him to drop off the kid with his iPad. I had friends who showed up with their toddler, promised me they'd watch her and she would behave. Then I caught her getting into my things several times. I couldn't relax at my own damn party because there was a kid running loose in my not child-proof apartment. That was the last time I invited them. I'd skip a party entirely before bringing my toddler. How can any adult be expected to relax in the presence of a toddler? Story 34. The one girl who thought her boyfriend would propose that night and cries for the rest of the party. Why you'd want to be proposed to at a frat party is beyond me, but okay. I can't imagine proposing to someone in a major public setting like an airport or sporting event, much less a frat party. Yeah, that's an attention/ego thing for sure. Some of the most special moments between a couple can, and in many cases should, be private. Conceiving their first child, for example. Story 35. Pointing out someone's recent bad experience. Someone thought it would be a good idea to loudly ask a girl, "Hey, I heard you failed your test so hard that you flunked out of your program. Is that true?" It should be more socially acceptable for everyone else at the party to throw couch cushions at that person the moment the thought leaves their mouth. Story 36. Someone trying to show off a weapon, especially a gun. It's time to nope out. I was 14 and on vacation with my family at a lake house. The house next door was having a party and we vaguely knew the girls who lived there. My older brother, 17 at the time, and his buddy were getting drunk and playing party games. My friend and I were just kind of chilling and sipping on a beer. I wasn't going to get drunk because our parents were literally next door and I wasn't dumb enough to be sloppy drunk that close to them. Anyway, my friend and I just sort of are people watching when this guy walks in. He's straight out of a teen movie, tall, athletic, and literally wearing a Letterman jacket. Oh, and he's carrying an axe. For some reason, no one balked at this and he came in and walked around to see some people holding the axe the entire time. His eyes were all bloodshot and he looked pretty far gone. This freaked me and my friend out, so we kept an eye on him. He eventually sat down at a table to play a card game and leaned the axe up against the leg of the table. When he was distracted enough by the game and talking to people, I walked by and casually grabbed the axe. The basement we were partying in was half finished, so I just carried it next to my leg and then placed it far behind a stack of sheetrock, leaning against some studs. The Letterman guy never even seemed to notice. But an axe? That wasn't even the most stressful thing that happened that night, but it was definitely the most dangerous. Thanks for watching and/or listening all the way to the end. If you have a similar story that you would like to share, please leave it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave us a like and subscribe. For more videos like this one right now, please stop by our channel. Thanks again, and see you next time.